That's the lesson that you take from this. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on someone.
When it comes down to it, it's a very difficult sport.
I enjoy the people that are here.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Welcome to Community Closeup. I'm Joe Nelson. We're inching closer to Election Day, and we take a look at the effect of smaller races that some may not even know are on the ballot. Standing tall in Coon Rapids, the WCCO radio tower is turning 90. Find out how it's remained a landmark in the community for so long. And we'll give you a taste of another time and show you how a Blaine man is living his sweet dreams with his own pop company. But first, the Coon Rapids Police Department investigates cases of domestic assault in the city every week. In September, NFL player Ray Rice made headlines again when surveillance video was obtained by TMZ showing him assaulting his then-fiancée, now-wife Janae in a New Jersey casino. It got a lot of people talking about domestic violence, the consequences of it, and why sometimes the victims continue to stay in their abusive relationships. Women in Anoka County can relate, and they're sharing their stories in hopes of raising awareness, calling it an epidemic that affects people in every community, regardless of age, economic status, race, or religion. Community Close-Up's Bao Vang has more.
No one asks to be the victim of domestic violence, yet 1 in 3 women report being physically or sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. Pastor Margie Gulker of Christ Lutheran Church in Blaine is one of them.
I didn't tell my story for a very long time. And then one Sunday, Domestic Violence Awareness Sunday, when I was preaching, and I said, I know that there are people here that think that no one here in this congregation is abused, and that you don't know anyone who has suffered from domestic violence. And I said, but you know me.
Pastor Margie was married in 1975. Looking back to when she and her husband were still just dating, she says there were things that happened that had she known, she would not have gotten married.
When you're caught in it, you're stripped of your self-esteem. You're stripped of your self-reliance, and eventually you're stripped of yourself.
Christy was young when she got married and started a family, but her husband and marriage were not what she imagined.
There comes a point when part of the reason you stay is because you don't think you deserve anything better. And everything that you've ever been called and the way that you've been treated is what you believe you deserve.
She says her husband's drug abuse fueled violent rages against her and their daughter.
He started yelling at me to get out. He grabbed me by the hair and he started hitting me and then trying to get Chloe off of me. She was clawing me, trying to stay on me, so he was pulling her hair. I don't remember, but I guess I had reached out and I had started scratching him and pinching him, just trying to get him to get off of me, and then I ran up the stairs and I threw Chloe in the car and we flew down the road. And once we got further down the road closer to home, I pulled over and made sure that she was okay. She was very upset.
Stories like Pastor Margie's, Christy's, and Janae Rice's make some of us wonder, why did they stay? According to Connie Moore, Executive Director of Alexandra House, an Anoka County organization helping to end domestic and sexual violence, the answer is complicated and different for each individual.
Victims of domestic violence or someone experiencing this, they don't necessarily want their relationship to end. They want the abuse to stop. They want their partner, their husband, boyfriend, whoever, to get help. They want it to change. They don't want the relationship to end, and they really believe that that can happen.
For women who are caught in this situation, every time it gets better, they think that it's gone away.
I stayed because I loved him, and I stayed because there was some really good times, and I stayed because I was scared. I stayed because I was only 20. I stayed because I had a baby with him. There's a million reasons why I stayed.
Eventually, the women were able to escape. It took 30 years for Pastor Margie.
There was a defining moment, and I remember that morning, and I called my daughter, and I said, "Hon, I think I have to leave." And she said, "Mom, I know you have to leave."
Christy found the Alexandra House and started attending a support group with other women who have walked in her shoes.
You can just have gotten the crap beat out of you, and yet you're sitting there feeling guilty and missing him. Nobody understood that. Nobody got that. They did. They also helped me understand that there were so many other aspects of my life and my relationships that were unhealthy and abusive that I never even considered abusive.
But both say telling their stories has been the most empowering of all.
I think the more that we give it a voice, we can fight it and we can change it.
The story needs to be told, and it needs to be told more than once. It needs to be told over and over again.
For Community Closeup, Bao Vang.
To learn more about the Alexandra House in Blaine, visit their website at alexandrahouse.org. Still to come, with the races for governor and U.S. Senate heating up, we'll explain what else is on the ballot and why. Stay with us.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Here at the City Center, absentee voting has been going on since September 19th. Most of us know who's running for governor and U.S. Senate, but what about the races at the bottom of the page? Why do we vote for auditor and judges? And what about third parties, write-ins? It's time to find out. Just about anyone who has turned on a TV in Minnesota in the past few months has read these names or seen these faces. But when voters head to the polls on November 4th, not every name they see or even the position they're running for is so familiar.
I don't know all the candidates, to be honest.
Always people I don't know.
And when it comes to voting for them,
I just ask God, which one should I choose? And then I pick him.
Typically, I like to see new faces in, and so I pick somebody that is not the incumbent.
Try to just do the ones I know more about.
Cassie Ogg of Ramsey is not alone. At least 77,000 Minnesotans who voted in 2010 did not vote for smaller state offices like state auditor, according to the Secretary of State.
We do see ballots every election cycle where people will just come in and vote for certain races and leave the rest blank, and whether that's, ballot fatigue, that they just get tired of looking at it, or, this is the only race that is really, really important to me. They certainly have their decisions and reasons for doing so.
Jeff Edblad is a political science instructor at Anoka Ramsey Community College. He's also running for his 6th term as Isanti County Attorney. He says each race we vote for is required by law to be an elected position, even if many don't know what that position entails.
Do you know what a state auditor does? Not too much, no.
Edblad explains.
State Auditor's Office is kind of a watchdog of public funds, making sure that local governmental entities are using the best accounting practices and spending tax dollars accordingly.
And what about county commissioner?
Not really sure.
County commissioners or the county board of commissioners will make county ordinances. They'll deal with policy at the legislative level, dealing with the county.
Well, maybe they should be appointed or, interview for the job, or I'm sure they have stances too that, or they have a record of how well they're doing.
And it's important that those positions be elected, much like the legislature, that they're held accountable directly to the voters. And also, it would be very difficult in an appointment situation as to appointing members of the legislative branch. Who'd be making those appointments, and how would that function? So I think it's from the standpoint of practicality and accountability that we're dealing with these as elected positions.
To make a selection, Edblad says it's important to find out their names and do some research before getting to the polling place.
What have they done that's warranted media attention? Have they done something extraordinary that has drawn acclaim to what they're doing, or conversely, has a candidate done something that causes concern for their fitness for office? So you need to educate yourself and look at the media sources and see exactly what individuals are doing and try to look at track records.
But what if we don't like any of the names on the ballot? What is a write-in candidate?
Have no idea.
In 2010, more than 1,800 people would cast write-in votes to select someone other than the 7 candidates for Minnesota governor listed.
Glad we have it. It's America. We should be able to do it. I wonder if they ever win. I don't, I'd be surprised if anyone ever
At least
did.
from what I've seen from write-in candidates, the smaller the area that the office is covered, the greater a chance a write-in candidate has. It's not uncommon for write-in candidates to prevail as township officers in township elections and sometimes in school board elections.
This year, 5 candidates are listed in the governor's race, but voters we talked to say they likely wouldn't be picking a third party.
The third parties at this point in time are more fringe, and I'm more mainstream, I guess.
They've had very good people running for office, but they haven't been able to garner the juice or the excitement that Jesse Ventura's candidacy did. The real question with regard to third parties that I've seen over the last few election cycles is not, is this candidate going to win, no matter how good or how viable a candidate they are, but the question is, which of the other candidates are they going to draw support from?
4 years ago, about 56% of eligible Minnesota voters made it to the polls, but you wouldn't know it based on the responses we heard.
If someone's doing a good job, I want to vote for them, or vice versa, because I think it makes a difference.
I think it's a privilege, and I don't think I've missed an election in years.
It's my civic duty.
It's our right. It comes back to what we believe in and what we're given.
You turn 18 and it's, part of your right as a U.S. citizen, and I think it's really important that we exercise it.
I don't think there's any election on the ballot that isn't going to touch a citizen's life in some aspect. And that's why I think it's so important for people to make sure that they educate themselves on the issues, the candidates, and make sure that they cast a vote in every election or every race out there.
3 chairs in this room are also up for grabs, including 2 city council seats and the mayor's. Up next, find out how a Blaine man is bringing back memories and creating new ones, one bottle at a time. We'll be right back. A Blaine man is pushing away plastic by bringing a taste of the past to a new generation. After years of research and planning, Jesse Hopkins' sweet dreams are coming true.
As a kid, I just remembered my mom always bringing home an 8-pack of soda when I was little, and we all got to pick one. And for me, that soda was always associated with fun times, and when it vanished, I really missed it.
As an assistant principal at a St. Paul Park Middle School, Jesse Hopkins knows the younger generations don't have those same memories, putting him on a new mission. He had experience making beer, but high expenses brewed sweeter ideas.
Found a guy in central Wisconsin that was making soda and thought, maybe I can give that a shot.
The educator had lessons to learn.
To get it started, for me, it was spending a lot of time learning it in central Wisconsin, the factory where I learned, and then just taking a risk and buying the equipment.
Making soft drinks was hard work.
I started off by looking at some super old newspapers and finding old soda shops, soda fountains, and borrowing some ideas from them and then going from there. So really it was, a little bit of chemistry and just a lot of trial and error.
Jesse needed to find flavors that took tasters to another time, all served in a returnable glass bottle.
I knew I wanted to make 50s style soda, so rather than make an interpretation of it, I decided to buy the equipment and just literally make 1950 soda. In the first few weeks, we probably broke one for every one we filled. And our hands were cut, and it was a steep, painful learning curve. But now we have it down. I would say, I'll bet you I've broken a solid 2,000 bottles.
He says it's the only company with refundable, returnable bottles in Minnesota and is one of just 13 in the country.
The returnable glass bottle is a really heavy bottle, and so it's expensive to transport. And so it's one of those things where it vanished because it didn't make financial sense for big businesses. And to me, that's something that is hard for me to swallow, because it's not because people didn't like the idea of it, it's because it didn't make financial sense. Part of it's bringing back that element of childhood, the nostalgic part of it, but then also definitely an environmental component too, with it being, without a doubt, the most sustainable packaging that you could have. It's reused. So our bottles can last up to 40 to 60 years and keeps a lot of plastic out of landfills.
This bubbly blend made with real sugar and low carbonation needed a name with a sound that hits the spot.
I was just brainstorming for words that kind of had a connotation of just total positivity, and so I thought, well, whistling, it's pretty much impossible to be angry and whistling, so that's kind of where Whistler came from.
With his Forest Lake factory open to the public every Saturday, Jesse sees a refreshing response.
That's actually been my favorite moment working in here, is when people that were around in the 50s come and try and say it brings them back. So typically the cream soda and the black cherry do that, and we've had some just people that were ecstatic to see it back, because they all have stories connected to when they were a kid. They went down to the local bottler, because there used to be bottlers in almost every community, and they would get their soda, returnable bottles in a case, and bring them home. And so, you know, we brought something back, and so when you see them come in, that makes me feel like, yeah, I think we really nailed it, because, you know, they were around then. So far we have had 100% positive response to the soda. There's virtually been no one that said, oh no, this isn't for me.
In the land of pop drinkers, Whistler Classic Soda has some confused.
Every Saturday we're open, a couple people ask me, is this soda or pop? And I really don't know how to tell the difference between the two. I grew up in Wisconsin. I don't know, we always called it soda, so I guess it's soda, but to me it's both.
Word has even traveled to the schoolyard.
A couple kids there say, hey, when are you going to bring me my soda? And I say, well, as soon as you bring me the money. It's a pretty incredible feeling sometimes to step back and see starting a brand that it was from nothing, you know, and now I can go into a couple of stores and there it is for sale. So yeah, it's a pretty cool sense of accomplishment.
With opportunities to grow, Jesse's not ready to quit his day job, enjoying his small business one sip at a time.
I would just love to see this be a place where people come pick up their soda or their pop on Saturdays. That is the end goal, to be successful enough to just be a big part of the community here in Forest Lake and around this area.
Whistler comes in 10 flavors, including black cherry and fruit punch. To quench your thirst for nostalgia, you can visit the factory on Saturdays in Forest Lake or other locations throughout the metro. For more information, go to whistlersoda.com. Coming up, a city landmark is turning 90. Find out what effect it's had on the area and what's kept it standing next.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
The fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
A celebration was held here in the Senior Center to commemorate half a dozen residents reaching past their 9th decade. It's a milestone shared by a Coon Rapids landmark that's been keeping people informed for nearly a century. Community Closeup's Drew Shingen explains.
WCCO is celebrating its 90th anniversary of broadcasting. So they first went on the air in October 2nd, 1924. And when they went on the air, they weren't using this tower. This tower didn't come along until March of 1925. So minus 6 months it's been here for this location has been in use by WCCO for almost all of its 90 years of history.
With the dignity and security of a great people.
You just heard President Calvin Coolidge's inaugural address. It was the first broadcast transmitted by the WCCO tower in Coon Rapids. Growing up, it seemed everybody listened to WCCO radio.
We listened to WCCO, yeah.
We listened to Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, and about 4 or 5 other programs. We'd all, after school, we'd sit and listen to radio, you know. I worked for WCCO 43 years.
Albert Leyline worked at the tower until 1986. He was very pleased that the transmitter was located in Coon Rapids.
It was a good choice, you know. The transmitter before that was on top of the Lowry Hotel, but that was just a 250 watt, 500 watt. And then they built a building out at the land. I imagine the land was cheap, you know, and they had 22 acres, and they put up that tower. First they did the high wire. They had a tower and a tower and a tower, and then they ran a wire across the tower. And that was the radio first, you know, and then they put up the big tower in 1939.
Celebrate the towering presence, both figuratively and literally, of WCCO radio in Anoka's history.
October 1st, 2014, Anoka Historical Society recognized WCCO Radio and its tower as part of the county's celebrated history. Many who attended had fond memories of seeing the tower on road trips.
My grandparents lived on Crooked Lake, and every Sunday we were expected to go out and visit them and stuff. And of course, that was getting out to Crooked Lake. That was the beacon that helped us find our way to Grandma's house back in the old days before the highways and stuff.
From South Minneapolis to St. Cloud was to go East River Road, right? We'd go right by there, and it'd be like, and here was the cool thing, when we were coming home from St. Cloud, because Big Lake was kind of like halfway, but then halfway to the Twin Cities was WCCO. So I knew I was getting closer.
And I think, you know, certainly they even talk about the broadcast, the tower being in Anoka or Coon Rapids when they say it on the station, and so that's always a point of pride. And you do hear people talking about it, and people that live around the tower, they love to tell you about what sort of issues they had while living close to the tower.
The issues from living so close to the tower were picking up the signal from strange objects in your house.
When they picked up their phones, they could hear it coming in on the telephone. All sorts of metal things, like people said that if they could, sometimes when they put their head in the dryer in their basement, the metal from that would pick it up, and they could hear it when a metal clothes hanger was touching certain pipes in the basement and things like that.
The WCCO tower is more than a piece of equipment. It's a staple in the community.
It's a spot that you can see from Highway 10, you can see it from, I think you can see it from parts of 169. It's certainly a place that people sort of say like, oh, it's by the tower. But I think it's always a landmark here in Coon Rapids, or it has been for nearly 90 years.
For Community Close-Up, I'm Drew Shingen.
Today, no one is manning the tower, but maintenance is done on a regular basis to keep us listening. Thanks for watching Community Close-Up. I'm Joe Nelson. We'll leave you with the smooth sounds of the golden tones right here at the Coon Rapids Senior Center. We'll see you next month.
Life was cheery in the good old days gone by.
Well, today at the Senior Center we had our over 90s celebration for people 90 years and older, and I think there were about 12 or 13 of them, and the oldest one was 96. So we've had a really good day here.
You know, there's an old saying, age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
Our Golden Tones Choir has been at our Senior Center since the beginning of the Senior Center about 35, 40 years ago. And they go around to different facilities in the Anoka County area, different assisted livings, nursing homes. And then here at the Senior Center, they will a lot of times play their music and sing their music for our special holidays.
But I was thinking, I have to look back now and find some really older music for these older people. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, you are one of those older people.
The Golden Tones are sort of ambassadors to the Senior Center. They represent us and they practice here and perform here, but then they also perform throughout the community.
They're a wonderful group of people. We've built them up over the years. Now we have approximately 33 members, They are all volunteers, and they not only volunteer their time, they pay all their own expenses to go out to these facilities. All of these people that are in this choir feel that this is a worthwhile thing. A lot of the people that we entertain can't get out. They're in nursing facilities, and you know, it brings a little joy into their life for an hour anyhow a day.
I've only lived in Coon Rapids for almost 10 years, and I've been in the Golden Tone probably 9 years. It's like a family. It's hard to say, but I enjoy the music. I enjoy singing, and if I keep telling them I'm getting too old, I should drop out. They said, no way.
Remember when we get there, honey.
We're not about perfection. This is music for fun. And there's nothing more fun for the audience than being able to, instead of just sitting and listening, to actually be a part of it. I would only leave if there were no way that I could continue. Otherwise, I fully expect to be directing this choir when I'm 94.